Hello and welcome. My name is Minbaeva. I'm professor at King's College London and an associate editor at the Academy of Management Review. This is Ask AE, is a series of informal sessions with the Academy of Management Review's associate editors. Today, our AE is Christy Shropshire from Arizona State University. Christy, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure, yes, thank you. Let me share my screen for a quick moment and I'll get us started. Donna, will you let me know if you can see my screen? Excellent, thank you. All right, well, welcome everyone to our inaugural Ask an Associate Editor AE series. I'm very pleased to be the first one to kick us off. I wanted to, before I introduce myself, just briefly remind everyone of the mission of the journal. We look to publish new theoretical insights that advance our understanding of management and organizations, and also that we seek to publish novel, insightful, and carefully crafted conceptual articles that challenge conventional wisdom concerning all aspects of organizations and their role in society. So we're not publishing empirical studies, case studies, or literature reviews, but we are looking to publish new theory in the areas of management organizations. So for me, by way of introduction, I am Christy Shropshire. I'm coming to you from sunny Tempe, Arizona, Arizona State University. By way of introduction, my research is on the strategy or OT side of management, and my work is multi-level. So I study both individuals and groups, a lot in the area of corporate governance, so CEOs or executives, top management teams, plus directors, both individually and boards collectively with organizational outcomes. So kind of in general, how those at the top of organizations make decisions, how they influence the strategy and the outcomes of their affiliated firms, including things like diversity across the upper echelons, corporate governance mechanisms and theorizing, firms' relationships with multiple stakeholder groups, and their varied and often competing demands. My work's been published in AMR as well as Academy Management Journal, Strategic Management Journal, Organization Science, Journal of Applied Psychology, and others, and been featured in a number of practitioner outlets and in Wall Street Journal, Fortune, Forbes, NPR, and so on. So a couple things that I'm currently working on, looking at the relationship between emotional displays and director influence in the boardroom, linkages between firms and the idea of legitimacy, some innovations around corporate governance. One study I'm looking at how investors respond to founder behaviors, especially nonverbal behaviors, when they're making funding pitches. And then I have ongoing work in the area of hedge fund activism and kind of the gendered experiences of executives and directors. In terms of editorial experience, I've been on the editorial review boards for AMR and AMJ, I think both since 2010. And I've done extensive ad hoc reviewing about 10 to 12 journals annually up until this past year. So I am currently an AE at AMR. Previously, I was an AE at Business and Society, 2020 to 2023. And I'd always heard that you learn a lot from editing, and this is definitely true. Kind of similar to being a reviewer, you really can kind of hone your own writing and craft as a researcher by helping others develop theirs. So our agenda for today, Donna's going to overview our plan and kind of introduce our topic, and then I'm going to share some insights on reviewer selection, some of the kind of commonalities and idiosyncrasies in this process, and walk you through an example to highlight some of the maybe the do's and the don'ts to consider when you're preparing your own manuscript to submit to AMR, and also when you receive an invitation to review from one of us. And then I want to touch on a few of our team's initiatives for this term and share some opportunities with you to get involved with AMR. So Donna, I'll send it back to you.
Yes, great. Thanks a lot. I'm just only for a few very brief comments. So we will record the first part of this webinar. That is Christy's presentation will be recorded. However, right after we will stop recording and invite all of you to ask questions. You can also just type your questions in the chat, and then I could read them for Christy, or again, it's after her presentation, you can actually just unmute and ask a question yourself. So we would like to keep it very kind of, really truly informal and engaging, but we thought that just to spread the message, we will record the presentation itself. Now, if you have any comments or questions, keep typing them in the chat. I will reorganize them and filter them. Also, any kind of other reactions are very welcome. And without further ado, Christy, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. All right, let's talk reviewer selection from the perspective of an AE. First of all, I want to give the broad caveat that this is my process and actually didn't vet what I'm about to say with the rest of the team. So if I see Donna over there saying stop, or there are idiosyncrasies to how AEs select the reviewers. So I'm talking through my process, my logic, and I'll walk through an example in a couple minutes. But I want to give that caveat that what I'm explaining is the way that I go through this process, and there may be some differences in how others approach it. But one thing that is consistent with AMR, you will always get 3 reviewers, and typically at least one of those is going to be a member of the editorial review board. So in terms of process, I'll put slides up here. They're not too informative, but just by way of background. All right, so reviewer selection, how I select reviewers. So when a new manuscript is received at AMR, Chris Byron decides to whom it will be assigned. And when it comes into my inbox, this is my process. So I read the cover letter, and let me go ahead and show my caveat. This is me. I read the cover letter. I see the author, their authors, their institutions. I have an Excel file where I would jot down kind of the broad topical areas and the literatures. This is to start envisioning who might be on the review team. So I then read the manuscript, and I'm looking to identify the target audience, what scholarly conversation does the paper seek to join, what type of contribution are the authors claiming to make, and all of my subsequent comments assume this is not a desk reject, that there appears to be enough potential for a novel, significant contribution that abides by the formatting, aligns with the AMR mission, to send it out for review. So once I'm ready to send it out for review, my objective is to build a diverse review team, diverse both topically and demographically. So I wanted to capture different perspectives that are embedded in diverse experiences. So ideally, I will be building a list of 6 to 8 or 6 to 10 reviewers who are geographically dispersed, not all in North America, not all in Europe, hopefully a mix of genders and levels. So assistants, associates, and full professors certainly tend to have different views based on their own experiences, and also maybe some different decision rules that they use in terms of their recommendation for reject or major revision and so on. So topically, I want to capture expert coverage of the key literatures that are drawn on or that the authors say they're contributing to. So for example, a paper that says it's integrating multi-team system literature with agency theory, or drawing on a resource dependence perspective to extend theorizing on something like market categorization or competing stakeholder relationships or whatever it is. I'm looking to capture experts that could speak to each one of those topical areas. So if authors say, we are challenging conventional wisdom on polarization or firm political ideology, I'm likely looking for an expert that's in that conventional space for legitimacy. Often the specifics of a given paper are not squarely in an AE's own core research area. So as Chris Byron assigns out the manuscripts, not everything is going to be a perfect fit for exactly what each of us studies. So while I'm corporate governance, I've already handled manuscripts that are more broadly on entrepreneurship, new ventures, AI, the genesis of resources and capabilities, human rights, one that was on intuition, just to name a few. So I want to be sure that I'm engaging your target audience to find out if your theory will resonate with those that are working in that space. So I think it's important to remember whether you get a rejection or a revise and resubmit decision, that journals are in the business of publishing papers. So while it can be so discouraging, trust me, I know there's so much rejection in this job. we really do want to develop ideas. We want to publish articles. So in terms of an R&R, you want to work with rather than against your reviewers. These are folks that know your area, even if they are seeing some aspects differently than you do. So here again, my caveat. So in terms of reading the manuscript, what I'm looking for, again, I'm looking for indicators of the current conversation you want to join, recent or repeated references. So when I do my read of the manuscript, I'm looking at the cover letter, and then I'm looking maybe in the introduction throughout the manuscript itself for who might be potential reviewers that would be able to speak to the topics that you're tackling in your manuscript. So let me walk you through an example. Bring this up. And I picked this one because it's actually our most recent, I believe, paper that's gone in press at AMR. And this is from the original submission. So back in 2022, this paper was submitted. I was not the AE then, not the AE on this paper. But if I were receiving this would be my process. So I'm looking at the manuscript that's arrived in my inbox. The title, I see the theoretical perspectives that are identified, the topic areas that are named, what are the kind of big takeaways that the authors are hoping for me to see in terms of the abstract. And in doing this, I'm really hoping to be able to start building that list, right? The 6 to 8 reviewers that I'm hoping will accept the invitation to review. So I'm making a list from the title page, from the cover, and then as I scroll down, you'll see I'm starting to look for who is in this conversation, especially recent papers, these folks that may still be in the reviewer pool, that may still be interested in advancing this conversation and giving feedback to these ideas. So I'm making a list from the title, from the keywords, from all the potential reviewers that I might invite. And so I've circled I've underlined a few here that are on the first few pages, especially those that are repeated, that may be good targets. Those that I start to see again and again, those that cover different aspects of the paper. So this paper started out very kind of core board of directors, corporate governance, and then they start to introduce kind of a group decision-making, collective decision-making literature, and give me some indicators of who else might be in that space. So who else might go on my list for who I would want to invite, especially when these come up repeated. And again, our recent names, folks that may be in our reviewer pool or that we could invite to be in our reviewer pool. Then further down in the manuscript, I see more names. I'm keeping track of all these names. And when the paper then goes into a very different area, I'm especially attuned to, over in my Excel file, making a list of who else might need to chime in, or who else might be interested in chiming in on this particular paper, on these particular ideas. So I have my Excel list. I'm going back and forth between the manuscript and the document itself. Now, one thing that I've been surprised to learn in this process is let me fix that, is the difference in how AEs view the cover letter. So in terms of recommended reviewers. So if you've mentioned folks in the cover letter, let me show my example, and then I'll give you the caveat of why this may be different for different people. Okay, so this is actually the cover letter that I used to use, and I've made it generic, but it's usually just a brief, thank you for considering our manuscript, here's the title, we're theorizing the role that this topic plays to this outcome, we're integrating work from this literature into this topical area to propose whatever relationship and highlight my contribution. So here I'm looking to identify what are all the potential relevant research streams that might want to chime in, who are really the key conversants in this scholarly conversation. Now, this is the one of the critical pieces. Earlier versions of this manuscript benefited from feedback from scholars X, Y, and Z, seminar participants at this one university, and maybe attendees at X conference, at Academy Management Conference. This is really important that you name your friendly reviewers. Please disclose any conflicts of interest. then this is the piece that's a little perhaps controversial. In the past, I've always said, given our focus on this theory and these topics, it strikes me that this AE may be a good fit. Perhaps these editorial review board members might be expert reviewers on this particular topic, or even someone that's not on the review board, another scholar, given their relevant expertise in a given topical area. Of course, we defer to your judgment and your selection. So the reason I share that is because this is one of the things that surprised me. You do need to suggest potential AEs. I think it's 1 or 2 that you're asked to suggest. But I find that recommending reviewers, for me, it's very helpful, whether these are ERB members or not. It gives me not just the signals I'm taking from the manuscript, but also an idea of who else do you as an author see as a really good reviewer, as a really appropriate fit for the manuscript topics. So the reasons a little controversial is that I've learned that other AEs do not utilize this input the same way that I do. Some utilize it to eliminate potential reviewers. It is still informative. It just is perceived differently or utilized differently by different AEs. So I would still encourage you to use that kind of or provide that kind of information in the cover letter. Absolutely, you should share the names of anyone who's read it. As an aside, kind of to mention friendly reviewers. If you haven't used this process before, I really want to encourage you guys to send out your manuscript for friendly review before you submit it. And I say friendly, you may not actually want such a friendly review. These reviewers are very helpful initial screens. You want them to identify any fatal flaws, any weaknesses, any leaps in logic that may be kind of diluting the theory that you're developing. But we also are very sincere in wanting to protect the double-blind review process. So beyond suggesting 1 or 2 potential AEs, I find it useful if you recommend potential reviewers, but absolutely disclose anyone who has previously read the paper and given you feedback, so that we can be truthful with potential conflicts of interest and the double-blind review process. Okay, so back in my Excel file, aside from friendly reviewers, back in my Excel file, I have recorded all of these names, looked for those folks from the editorial review board, other potential scholars that would be a good fit, an appropriate fit as reviewers. Now, I may find that some of these repeated references, potential reviewers, are eliminated because of conflicts. Often they are, in the first few pages, they're the authors themselves, or they are co-authors, or those at the same institution. Those are all reasons that reviewers are not eligible. When we receive the manuscript, we have to, as AEs, check a conflict of interest box before we can assign it out. So at that point, I go to our review board. I'm looking for expertise that would fill any gap in order to build out this list of 6 to 10 potential reviewers that are ordered based on the way that I would like for them to be invited. They're ordered, for example, if I see maybe 2 major literatures that I want covered, then I send, and this is where I say process with the managing editor, because it's actually not, the invitations don't actually come from me. They come from our amazing managing editor, Irina Burns. So what I am sending to her is this list saying, the first reviewer, I would like to be X. If they say no, go on to Y. The second reviewer, I would like to be X. If no, go on to Y, so that we can be sure to get a solid group of 3 reviewers for every manuscript. Now, I want to touch on this from the kind of author perspective. Think about the conversation that you're joining, who would be most interested in your contributions, where you're connecting to literature or multiple literatures. You have again, those kind of first few pages in your cover letter to help send those signals and to definitely disclose any conflicts of interest, signals that maybe you've embedded intentionally or otherwise they are being used. And then from the reviewer perspective, why were you chosen, right? You may sometimes get a manuscript, an invitation to review, and you're not exactly sure, like why I'm a fit for this. Did the AE ask you to attend to certain aspects of the manuscript in terms of your expertise? Know that this is not haphazard. This is a very intentional process. Hopefully you're able to see easily why you were invited. If it's not very obvious, one process that I use is to send a separate email in advance of Irina's formal invitation. One, asking if you're available, if you're willing to review, and if there is additional kind of context around why I'm asking you. It could be that I'm looking for a third reviewer to provide the perspective more as a general reader of AMR, or a particular aspect of the paper that is maybe not totally apparent in the invitation email since you only see the title and the abstract. But know that, again, this has been thoughtfully done. As an AE, we are very appreciative of your service as reviewers and for considering AMR as an outlet for your own research. So I hope that's helpful, kind of some color around the process of how we choose reviewers, or how I choose reviewers, knowing that some others may do it a little bit differently. A couple initiatives that I wanted to share before I hand it back for questions. In case you're not aware, in addition to this Ask an AE series, we are, as a team, organizing a number of outreach workshops, idea development workshops, including those that will be offered virtually. The Bridge Reviewer program, I'm going to come back to in just a moment. So today we've just talked in this Ask an AE series on reviewer selection. We have those in the future about responding to reviewers, I think approaching special issues. But another kind of resource that's available is these From the Editor's essays. These are brief, if you're not familiar with them, these are brief kind of concentrated guidance on a specific aspect of publishing theory. For example, there's several on why papers are rejected that can also themselves kind of serve as that friendly review step in terms of improving your chances to get an R&R. So the Bridge Reviewer series, or Bridge Reviewer program, excuse me, this we are continuing from the previous term. The Bridge Reviewer program is meant to invite new reviewers into our reviewer pool. So if you're not currently in our reviewer pool and you're interested in joining, there's a few learning modules to complete. And then after you complete those, you'll be invited to review an AMR submission, but it's low stakes. So that the feedback that you provide, the review that you submit, doesn't go out to the authors, but you are part of the team in terms of you're able to see the decision letter, you're able to see the other reviews, and you actually get to meet with your mentor to talk about how your review matched up, or how you might do, how you might improve and get feedback on the Bridge review that you provided. And then once you kind of graduate from the program, then you're added to the reviewer pool. And again, like I mentioned at the outset, I think you learn a lot from this process. It's not just the craft of writing, of authoring your own manuscripts, but to become a more active reviewer. So I broadly say this as an invitation to review, be part of AMR, read the journal, learn what you can about crafting theory, please review for us, please submit your papers. This is the Bridge Reviewer program, along with being a reviewer, just a means really to develop yourself as a reviewer and as an author. And then please submit your work. That we're looking, we are in the business of publishing papers, and we are looking for more manuscripts, more new theory to publish.